Can you actually learn jujitsu from home? This is such a common question that I get now that I have somewhat of a YouTube channel and on social media. Maybe even some of my friends that know that I teach jujitsu and train jujitsu. This is such a common question now. Can I actually learn jujitsu on my own? Do I have to go to an academy? What are some of the differences between training on my own and training in an academy? So we're going to break it down today in this video coming up. How's it going, everybody? My name is Chasen Hill. I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt. I've been teaching and training jiu-jitsu now for 14 plus years. So if you guys like all things jiu-jitsu, I release new videos weekly. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button down below. It does help me in the YouTube algorithm get seen by other potential jiu-jitsu students that might need my help. So training jiu-jitsu on your own is kind of a controversial topic up to this point. Some people think that it's very beneficial. Some people think it's not beneficial at all. Some people think you can do it. Some people think that you can't do it. So let's start with the difference between training at home versus training at an academy. Now, I want to be super clear before we get any further. When I mean training on your own, I mean training outside of an academy with a small group of training partners. You cannot literally train jiu-jitsu on your own forever. So you can buy some things like grappling dummies and you can buy the world's best instructionals, but at the end of the day, you will need bodies to train jiu-jitsu, human bodies, like realistic resisting based bodies. So you're going to have some kind of training partners. So you cannot train jiu-jitsu 100% alone, but you can simulate a lot of the things with a very small group of training partners. You can do certain things like buy dummies and be able to train that way. I have a whole video talking about the Grapple Smarty 2.0. It's one of my favorite training dummies, one of the best ones that I've personally trained with. So you can check out that video right here if you're interested in checking out a grappling dummy. But you're eventually going to have to recruit either your friends, your wife, one of your buddies, or something to come train jiu-jitsu with you in person to get better at the techniques. So first, let's talk about why some people might want to train jiu-jitsu at home versus training at the academy. Well, the first one is going to be obvious. It's going to be the cost. Jiu-jitsu academies can cost anything between $100 to $200 a month. I've even heard of some costing more than that, depending on where you're located, either in the United States, that's where I'm located, or where you're at in the world. So definitely cost might be a reason why you don't want to train at an academy. Maybe you don't have that extra money to set aside for that training. And the next one is going to be location and time. So maybe you're not able to make the group classes that's at the local academy that's close to you. Maybe you think it's too far away to be able to commit financially to be able to do a membership. Most academies usually want you to do jiu-jitsu for about a year. And I know that some students don't really like that because they don't want to feel like they're locked into anything. But you have to understand the reason why most academies are structured like that is because for you to actually get real benefit out of training jiu-jitsu, you need to give it a year. Now, usually if you need out or if you're moving or something catastrophic happens, they're like any other business owner. They're going to work with you. But just know, like, you training for 30 days is not going to do anything if you just quit in 30 days. Like, you're not going to get anything out of it. So if you're going to decide to do jiu-jitsu, please commit to it for at least 6 months to a year to give it a chance to work, as long as you give it equal effort. So a lot of times students can't make the class schedule. It's too far away. The cost is too much. So those are some of the main reasons why students might want to train at home. Another reason is because of maybe the academy environment, or the academy doesn't offer the type of training that they want. You know, jiu-jitsu is not offered in every single town quite yet. If you live in metropolitan areas, there is probably a jiu-jitsu school on every single corner. I live here in Oklahoma City, and there's a lot of schools in the major towns and suburbs outside of the city. But still, if you go an hour outside of the city, you're lucky to find one school, maybe two schools within a 10 to 20 mile radius in one little small town. So jiu-jitsu is not quite everywhere yet. So if you don't have many options, and maybe you've gone and visited a school and it's just not quite your vibe, then you might just elect to buy some instructionals and recruit some buddies and to be able to train at home. So the academy just might not be ready for you. So those are some reasons why a student might want to train jiu-jitsu more on their own than in an academy. Now, let's talk about some benefits at training at an academy that you're missing if you're deciding to only train at home alone. Now, let's talk about some benefits that you might be missing out on if you decide to train on your own outside of the academy. The first one is going to be the lack of expertise. Yes, you can buy any instructional from the world's best instructors that have the best techniques and this world champion and that world champion. But if you've never had the benefit of actually going to a group jiu-jitsu class and having some kind of an instructor standing over you and correcting you and having them do the technique on you, that is a massive part to learning jiu-jitsu. So not having that expert there helping you and guiding you along the way, pointing out the common pitfalls and correcting your mistake every step of the way is a giant thing that you're gonna miss if you're not training in an academy. You can watch all of the details. You can watch the best John Danaher video, the best Gordon Ryan, the best Craig Jones video, but nothing will replace actually them putting hands on you and fixing the technique in person and you seeing it in person and getting to ask questions and having that communication and dialogue to actually improving your jiu-jitsu. The next big thing that you're going to miss out on by only training at home is the lack of training partners. Now, you might have 4 or 5 really committed people who are down to come to your house and come to your garage, or that maybe you're interested in going to, but at the end of the day, you're missing a giant bit of jiu-jitsu where you can't train with the variety of belts, the variety of size of people, and be able to test your jiu-jitsu against those different types of skill levels. That's one of the many benefits of training at the academy is that you can train with people who are purple belts, brown belts, black belts, person who's 225 pounds versus a person who's 150 pounds, and you can see all the different grappling styles that are available to you. This is one of the biggest reasons that students use academies is for the expertise of the instructor, the different types of training partners, and then they can go around and be able to train in those conditions and in that environment. Now, the next thing that you're going to really miss out is sometimes the community aspect of jiu-jitsu. I understand sometimes not everyone fits in the community aspect of jiu-jitsu. It's a very niche community. It's a very kind of cult-like community. I know some of you guys are probably mad that I'm saying that, but it's true. It's kind of a club, and it's either you're in it or you're not. And then you even have jiu-jitsu cults inside or niches inside of niches. You have your guys that really like leg locks, and you have your guys that really like this style. You have guys that really like competing. Then you got guys that don't like competing at all, that are anti-one and anti-another. A lot of times the jiu-jitsu politics can be very frustrating and confusing, and you're just tired of it, right? If your jiu-jitsu academy cares more about dealing with the politics versus providing you a good jiu-jitsu environment that's clean, safe, gives you effective techniques, and keeps it to that stuff, then yeah, you may not want to dive into that academy head first and be in that environment. And like I mentioned earlier, if you don't have many choices, then what other options are you left to deal with? If you guys are liking this information right now, make sure you leave me a comment down below about some things that you've thought about training at home. Have you ever thought about doing it? Have you ever thought about getting some mats and having some buddies come over? Have you ever thought about leaving your academy and just training from home? Let me know some of your thoughts down in the comments below. Also, if you guys are looking help to get better at jiu-jitsu, make sure you grab my free acceleration guide that's down in the bottom. It gives you some tips and tricks on how to actually structure your jiu-jitsu training and how to actually take ownership of your jiu-jitsu and how to actually start getting better faster. So if you're into that kind of thing, make sure you check that out down below. Now that I've talked a little bit about the differences between why maybe someone might want to train at home and some things that you're missing out at training at the academy, let me give you guys some advice if you do decide to train at home or maybe even do a little bit of a hybrid model. So the first thing is try to develop some kind of lesson plan or curriculum when you're training at home. Sometimes when you're training at an academy, that's all structured and designed for you. If there's a basics class or if the instructor has an advanced curriculum or they're determining what you're training, you don't really have to think very much. They're deciding that for you. But when you're at home training on your own, you have to make all those decisions. I think this is a big reason why students still like to go to an academy is because they just don't want to think. You know, they've been at work all day, they've been around their families or whatever, and now they're coming here and they want to be guided and they want to be led and they want to be kind of told what to do and encouraged what to do. Now, I personally think that's not what you should do forever training at an academy. You should definitely take ownership, but just in the beginning, that is very beneficial and very helpful. So if you're new to jiu-jitsu, you may not know what you should be training or why you should be training that or what are the basics or what are the fundamentals. A lot of times you will see an instructional that says that, and it's really not. Jiu-jitsu people are the biggest people of doing the curse of the expert idea, where they over explain and they over talk very basic concepts when they just need to boil it down to the easiest thing for a new person to learn in jiu-jitsu. And jiu-jitsu guys are hard to do that because they get so nerdy with everything. So how do you know if it's actually basic? How do you actually know if it's advanced? Usually if you go to an academy, it's a little bit more structured. If you're just buying instructional, you never know. So I recommend trying to figure out some kind of lesson plan to be able to follow and stay on a regular schedule. The next thing is find reliable training partners. This is probably the hardest thing to be able to do. You can find plethora of curriculum and find everyone's rhyme and reason for training some kind of techniques. There are a bunch of people that have that, but finding actual able bodies is very tough. So you're gonna need to be able to find someone who can also commit to training jiu-jitsu as well. If you can't find a physical body as often, very much work on solo drills and solo movements, things like shrimp drills, shoulder rolls, inverted rolls. There's plenty of resources out there to teach you solo movements. Those are at least getting your body doing jiu-jitsu based movements. You could also invest into a grappling dummy or some kind of training tool to be able to benefit your jiu-jitsu as well too if you can't always find a live body. But you're really going to need to find someone who can commit to training maybe 1 to 2 days a week, especially while you're training on your own at home. And then the last piece of advice I'd really give someone who's thinking about training at home or thinking about this hybrid model is still pop into an academy when you can. Usually, if you're training at home and you're the most skilled one, or you guys are all about the same, you may not really get a good gauge on what's working or what you need to improve on. So if you can schedule maybe a private lesson or do an open mat or pop into a class that's at a local academy that you kind of somewhat trust, then that can be a massive benefit to your jiu-jitsu game. Personally, I have an online coaching program where I do this with students where we look at their training footage, we break down what they need to be doing, we talk about ideas about what they should be training, and then they can go out there and start to apply it on their own, either inside their academy or even online or even at home by themselves. I've got one group that only trains by themselves, and then they will pop in, they will let me know what they're working on. They'll even schedule an in-person private, we'll train, then they'll go back and work on that stuff on their own. That's easier for them to do versus making the class schedule and being able to train one-on-one. So these are just some helpful tips if you're thinking about being able to train from home that you might want to take into consideration if you're not doing already. What I do think is really cool with technology growing and the access to jiu-jitsu becoming easier is kind of this hybrid idea. Like what I have to offer is my Jiu-Jitsu Blueprint coaching program, which means students can enroll and they can work with me. They could submit training footage, they can tell me what they're having problems with, and they can get access to someone who is quote unquote an expert, I guess if you think that, of me, and then I can help them make decisions on their own. When you buy an instructional, you're just getting a bunch of techniques, but you're not being able to bounce those ideas off of the person that actually made those techniques and ask them questions and seeing them in person, which is always going to be better. But if you can actually have a coach that supports you or even someone who can point you in the right direction every now and then, I think that's massively beneficial. So I think jiu-jitsu market will kind of grow in that way. I think that the instructional is a great modality and a resource, but having access to John Danaher on a weekly basis or Gordon Ryan on a weekly basis is going to cost you a lot of money and get expensive. But for me, I don't cost that much. So if you guys are interested in collaborating with somebody who can help you, definitely hit me up. I take applications to join my program because I want to make sure that you're actually the right kind of student that I want to work with. So if you're interested in getting more information, make sure you visit that link down below. I also have students who are in this that actually train at other academies. It's no different than getting an extra strength and conditioning coach. It's no different than going to a seminar out of town. You're just bouncing more ideas off of people and learning from other people beside your main coach as well too. So I hope you guys found this information helpful. You found this video helpful, and make sure you guys stick around, check out the next video, and I'll see you guys next time.